You ever heard of Poveglia Island? No? It's a tiny island near Venice, Italy. No hotels, no restaurants, just abandoned buildings and silence. Tourists don't go there, locals don't talk about it. But there's one story I heard, and once you know it, you'll get why this place is never on the travel brochures. Back in 2004, a guy named Marcus, American photographer, mid-30s, took a solo trip to Venice. He was into abandoned places, urban decay kind of stuff. One night at a bar, he heard a rumor about Poveglia. The bartender leaned in and whispered, "No one goes there. But if you do, don't stay past sunset." Of course, that just made Marcus want to go. The next morning, he paid a sketchy local guy to take him there by boat. The man didn't even dock, just told Marcus to jump when they were close, then said, "I come back if you still here." Marcus started exploring. The place was strange. Not just abandoned, it felt stuck. Vines growing through windows, rusted hospital beds, a bell tower with no bell. He kept taking pictures, wandering deeper, until he found a hallway covered in soot, like something had burned, but there was no sign of fire damage anywhere else. That's when he heard it. A voice, whispering in Italian. He thought it was someone else exploring, so he called out, but no answer. The whispering stopped, then started again, but closer. And this time, it said his name. He froze. No one here was supposed to know his name. He turned and took a photo, just to have the flash light the hallway. In that single blink of light, he saw a figure standing at the end, tall, still, with what looked like a plague mask. Then darkness again. He ran, but the island's layout suddenly felt unfamiliar. Corridors that weren't there before, doors that didn't lead outside. It was like the building shifted, like it was keeping him in. His camera? Batteries dead. His phone? No signal. So he left marks on the walls with chalk from his bag, trying to trace his path back. But every time he came back to a mark, it was erased. Then came the screams. Not loud, not panicked, just endless, echoing, like hundreds of voices crying in pain, layered over each other. He found a room with sunlight peeking through a crack and forced the window open, climbed out, tore up his leg on the way down, but didn't stop running until he hit the shoreline. The boat guy wasn't there, but Marcus waited for hours. When the boat finally returned, the driver wouldn't look at him, just said, "You're lucky. Island don't always let people go." Marcus never published those photos. He moved back to the States, changed jobs, never spoke about it again. But here's the twist. In 2019, a tourist uploaded a random drone shot of Poveglia, and in one broken window of the old hospital, you can see someone holding a camera, staring straight up, wearing a bloody bandage on his leg. Marcus died in 2012. So who or what is in that photo?
That was the question that brought Ava to Italy. She was Marcus's cousin. They grew up like siblings. And when he passed, nobody ever told her the full story. Just that he stopped talking after some trip to Europe and eventually stopped being himself. After that drone photo went viral, Ava started digging. She found Marcus's old travel journal, his flight details, even a ferry stub with the word Poveglia scribbled on the back. And there it was, a blurry Polaroid tucked in the back cover, an empty hallway with burn marks on the walls, and in the corner, almost out of frame, a shadow wearing a plague mask. Ava booked a flight to Venice that same week. She didn't tell anyone. The man who ferried her over was different from the one Marcus wrote about, but he had the same look in his eyes, that "you shouldn't do this" kind of silence. When she said the island's name, he shook his head and muttered, "If you hear the bell, you're already too late." There hasn't been a bell on Poveglia for over 100 years. He dropped her off close to shore, then backed away fast, like the island was magnetic and he didn't want to get pulled in. Ava stepped onto land and instantly felt it. The silence wasn't just quiet, it was dead, like sound refused to exist there. She walked through the overgrown trail, through the crumbled gates of the old hospital, just like Marcus described. Rotting beds, cracked tiles, dust so thick it looked like snow. But she noticed something strange. There were fresh footprints, and they weren't hers. She followed them through a twisted hallway until she reached a door, charred black, with numbers carved into it. 313. She froze. That number again. From stories, from other places, a cursed room, a recurring thread. But this was Poveglia. This was supposed to be Marcus's story. So why was that number here? The door opened on its own. Inside, a single chair and a wall of old monitors. Dead screens, but they buzzed faintly like they were waiting to wake up. She stepped in, and just as she crossed the threshold, the door slammed shut behind her. Then one of the screens flickered on. It showed a video feed, a hallway, burn marks on the wall, a camera lens, and a man with a bloody bandage on his leg, staring directly into the screen. Ava whispered, "Marcus." The figure on the screen raised his hand and pointed behind her. She turned fast. No one was there. But when she looked back, the video was gone. Now all the screens showed her, from different angles, real-time footage. She backed toward the door, pulled the handle, locked. The lights flickered, and from behind the wall, she heard it. That same voice Marcus recorded on his voicemail years ago. A whisper in Italian. Only now, it wasn't saying his name. It was saying hers. "Ava, Ava, vieni qui. Come here." And then the bell rang. Once. Loud. From the center of the island. Even though the tower had collapsed decades ago. Her phone buzzed violently in her pocket. She looked, no service, but a message popped up anyway. One photo. It was her, standing in the middle of the hospital lobby. But she hadn't been there yet. The timestamp? Tomorrow, 3:13 p.m. Ava stared at the message, hands trembling. No service, no internet, no app open. Just that single photo of herself in a place she hadn't even entered yet. And somehow, she believed it. The room was still locked. The screens were off again. The whispering had stopped. But something had shifted. She backed away slowly, eyes darting, waiting for the next impossible thing to happen. But everything went silent again. She slid down to the floor, trying to steady her breath. When she woke up, it was already morning. No one had come, no sound outside, just soft light bleeding in through a broken window. She checked her phone. Battery, 9%. Time, 1:48 p.m. And that photo? Still there. Still time-stamped 3:13 p.m. Still showing her, standing in the lobby, with her eyes closed, like she was asleep on her feet. But now, there was someone else in the frame. A tall figure in the background, wearing a plague mask. She got up and left the room. Every hallway felt unfamiliar again. Angles that didn't exist yesterday. Corners that folded into themselves. Somehow, the air had changed, heavier, like walking through water. And then, she found the lobby, exactly like in the photo. Same cracks on the marble floor, same light angle, and when she looked at her phone again, the image updated in real time. 2:56 p.m. The photo now showed her, standing in that very lobby, eyes closed, head tilted slightly, and behind her, the masked figure was closer. She backed away toward the wall, but the moment she moved, the light shifted, and the old bell tower cast a shadow across the floor. Even though there was no tower left, she looked up, and for just 1 second, in the corner of her eye, she saw it. The tower was there, rebuilt, whole, as if time folded backward. And then she heard the bell. Ding! 3:13 p.m. Her phone screen cracked on its own. No drop, no pressure, just shattered. And in the shards, she saw reflections. Not just hers. She saw Marcus, pale, hollow-eyed. She saw herself, but older, dirty, dried blood on her shirt. And behind them both, the man in the mask. She screamed, but no sound came out, because Poveglia doesn't echo. It absorbs. They found her boat 2 days later, empty, drifting near the mainland. Phone gone, backpack still inside. One photo left in her journal. That same screenshot, 3:13 p.m. Police dismissed it as an accident, said she probably drowned. But locals, they know. And sometimes, when the fog rolls over the lagoon, fishermen say they hear the bell ring, even though the tower's still a pile of stone. And if you look closely at the water, sometimes you'll see a face just under the surface. Eyes closed, lips moving, like they're whispering something from the other side. Something like, "Vieni qui."